Come on in. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're talking about my top 10 Survivor 50 snubs. No All-Stars cast is going to please everyone. Sometimes it even pleases no one, as is the case with Survivor Game Changers. But today, I thought I'd throw 10 names into the ring that I really wish would have made the cut for Survivor 50, but who didn't. I'm going to keep this in the realm of players who were realistically considered for 50, who made it at least partway through casting. So don't worry, I'm not putting my personal Mount Rushmore of Tyrone, Bob Dog, Danger Dave, and Broccoli Brad here. The players I'm talking about today are all people who could have been on 50, who were at one point in consideration, but ultimately didn't make the cut. Finally, one bit of housekeeping. I'm not including Amanda here, because she literally was on the cast but dropped out last second. So, who are the biggest omissions from Survivor 50? Let's find out. At number 10 is Abby Maria Gomez from Survivor Philippines and Survivor Cambodia. Survivor 50 is supposed to be a celebration of 50 seasons of Survivor, but no one who first played in the 20s is here at all. What's that about? Abby Maria is great because she is an absurdly chaotic and petty player in the game, but by all accounts is like the sweetest person you'll ever meet outside of the game. I wonder if in casting they talked to her and just thought she'd lost her edge since the last time she played. Maybe they thought Q was enough chaos for the season. Whatever the reason, having no representatives from the 20s sticks out like a sore thumb on the 50 cast proper. And sweet, volatile Abby would have been a perfect representative for such a tumultuous era in Survivor history. Frankly, we deserve to see her finally give a speech for the ages at Final Tribal.
Hey, I want to know what's one thing, I don't want to keep you guys too long, but what's one thing in this game that you feel like you single-handedly did? Social.
At number 9 is Shan Smith from Survivor 41. At one time, Shan seemed like a shoe-in returnee. She was the breakout star of Survivor's triumphant post-COVID return and an iconic and cutthroat villain. On a tribe filled with players where each one is goofier than the last, her and Ricard set a tone of abject ruthlessness. This was supposed to be the silly tribe. Why do I feel like I'm at a funeral every time we go here? On one hand, I get why Shan is MIA. She was a major player on a season which wasn't received well and which has aged like milk as the show pivoted away from its excesses. And she was and is a controversial and outspoken figure, to say the least. But that's also what made Shan so dynamic in the confessionals and what gave her such a mercenary approach to the game. In an era where people want to hug out their problems, Shan wants to cut your throat. Respect. I mean, a pastor who says God told them to be an influencer. Sign me up, man. At number 8 is Sean Rector from Survivor Marquesas. I would have preferred a few more 1 or 2 time players from the old era rather than some of the 4 and 5 timers we got. And it's hard to think of a one-timer more worthy of returning to Survivor than Sean Rector. Sean was absolutely hilarious. He helped orchestrate one of the most important power shifts in the history of the game, and he did his confessionals in this pose. Sean was aura farming before we even had a word for it. Sean also spoke openly and honestly about race and unconscious bias, conversations that are still very relevant today. Still, I do think it's a pretty big ask of the audience to remember this random dude from season 4, so in that sense, I do get why he's not here. But he was reportedly considered and went through at least part of casting. I don't know how you talk to this guy in 2025 and don't put him on TV. At number 7 is Carolyn Weiger from Survivor 44. You can't talk about Survivor 50 snubs without talking about the most infamous of them all, Carolyn. Carolyn was let go in March and let everyone know about it, and that is at least part of the reason she was let go in the first place. If Shan was New Era Survivor's first star, Carolyn was its first superstar. Weird, wacky, constantly screeching and licking her lips and rolling around in the sand. Carolyn's antics quickly went from annoying to endearing as the season went on, and she was a genuinely sympathetic and rootable player. But a series of post-game controversies really soured production on her, or at least I'm assuming it did. blabbing too much on podcasts, ongoing drama with other players, and an ever-present association with Carson, who increasingly became an albatross. I don't think her appearance on the Traders sealed the deal that she wasn't going to be on 50, but it also definitely didn't help her case. Overall, I get why all of the post-game stuff probably did her returnee chances in, but even factoring all of that in, she still stands tall, or at least rolls around on the ground, as one of the season's biggest absences. At number 6 is Malcolm Freeberg from Survivor Philippines, Survivor Karamoan, and Survivor Game Changers. Survivor's man bun era is mercifully over, but there's one man bun I want back on my screen. Danger Dave, baby. But if I can't have Danger Dave, I'd also love to have Malcolm back again. Malcolm is the Pablo Sanchez of Survivor, a 9 out of 10 in gameplay, personality, and challenges, and he's insanely popular to this day. Like Abby, Malcolm stands out as one of the best possible representatives for an era unrepresented on 50 at all, the 20s. And not to beat a dead horse, but the way his story ended on Game Changers still makes my eye twitch. Taken out by the two most unpredictable forces in Survivor history, an unforeseen twist, and JT on a returnee season. He's got so much more gas in the tank, and I genuinely would have had him in winner contention if he was back. At number 5 is Marianne Oketch from Survivor 42. Marianne was reportedly the last person cut from the cast for Savannah, and I kinda wish they kept her on. Marianne has such a delightful inner light that it's infectious. She's so unabashedly her, and I love that she owns every part of her personality. The kindness, the eagerness, the endearing obnoxiousness. Along with Erica, Marianne set the early template for New Era success of laying low, biding your time, and perfectly executing the perfect move at the perfect time. We've sort of moved past that. So I'd be curious to see how she does on a return, and I think she is the type of player who would seriously mix things up and swing for the fences on a second chance. I don't know, maybe they're saving a Marianne return for a bit down the road. I think it would be really interesting to see Marianne in her 30s with more life experience and maturity, for example. But I admittedly also would have loved to see Marianne geek out over Coach and Jenna and Colby. At number 4 is Jesse Lopez from Survivor 43. Jesse was cut in March of last year when they were really winnowing the potential cast down, and I genuinely struggle to understand why. Jesse's story of going from criminal delinquent to corny dad was so compelling and clearly resonated strongly with a lot of the audience. His struggle of being torn between his loyalties to his friends in the game and his family back home was really engaging. Plus, he was an incredible strategist without coming across as robotic. A rare feat in this game. Jesse was such a layup for Survivor 50 that most just took it as a foregone conclusion that he was going to be out there. So, what happened? Did they think he was just going to be a huge target with no shot to go deep? Do they think his story is complete? Did Joe just completely take the family man mantle away from him? Does CBS just want to forget Survivor 43 ever happened? Were they jealous that he was in a Mr. Beast video? Oh man, it's that, isn't it? At number 3 is Jonathan Penner from Survivor Cook Islands, Survivor Micronesia, and Survivor Philippines. My understanding is that Penner was one of the last players let go, and I really wish he wasn't. He's one of my favorite players of all time. Penner is in that sweet spot of players who are very outspoken in the game, unafraid to make big moves, but also kind of bad at Survivor. This is a compliment, by the way. That is an ideal recipe for a fun mess, which Penner's games always are. He also gives great, insightful, and funny confessionals, undoubtedly informed by his acting career. And I've always said that Survivor 50 needed more players who have been killed by a haunted clock in an Amityville movie, so for me, not having Penner is a huge miss. Seriously guys, go watch Amityville, it's about time. It's about a haunted clock. A haunted clock!
Rusty, right? I hope that later on we can open up a little dialogue. Okay?
At number 2 is Jerry Manthe from Survivor Australia, Survivor All-Stars, and Survivor Heroes vs. Villains. Respectfully, Where the hell is Jerry? She is Survivor's original villainess. She accused Kel of having beef jerky, she rocked the iconic blue bikini, and she was as horny for Colby as the rest of America. She's a name millions of fans, old and new alike, instantly recognize, and it ain't from her stint on Extreme Dodgeball, I'm telling you that much.
We're gonna finish them off in the third. The big guys are going down.
All right.
Podcast appearances make it clear that she still has the directness, which made her such a love-to-hate character to begin with, so where is she? I at least understand why most of the rest of this list didn't make the cut, even if I don't necessarily agree. But Jerry is the only one I find truly baffling. We needed the OG Black Widow back out there one more time. The biggest Survivor 50 snub, in my opinion, is Rob Cesternino from Survivor Amazon and Survivor All-Stars. No one could really fault Survivor for not trotting out a guy who most recently played in 2003, but it's hard to argue that any single Survivor player has done more for the Survivor community at large in the years since. Through his podcast, the creatively named Rob Has a Podcast, Rob is responsible for an entire cottage industry of Survivor content creators, whether directly or indirectly. It's really hard to overstate his impact on how Survivor is discussed online. And in an online world where it's a constant race to the bottom to have the most reactionary, incendiary, negative takes, Rob is consistently positive and constructive even when he's being critical of the show. Did they just think the casual audience wouldn't care about this guy? Did they think he wouldn't have it anymore? Were they scared some of his edgy comments from the Amazon would come back to haunt him? For me, it's such a tough omission to swallow, especially knowing he went really far into casting for the season. For a season called In the Hands of the Fans, the show left their biggest champion on the bench. And that sucks, man. I can sum up how I'd feel seeing Rob Cesternino back on Survivor in 3 words.
So fucking hard.
Got nothing else for ya. Who would you want to see back for Survivor 50? I want to know your biggest season 50 snubs, so let me know in the comments. Until next time, don't get idled out.